Hi everyone, I'm Frank Tiano, and welcome back to the 5th episode of Behind the Black and Orange, the show that takes you backstage here in the Uxbridge Public Schools. Today, we will be going behind the scenes of our visual arts department at Uxbridge High to get a better look at the incredible talents of our students and staff. In our first segment, we will meet our amazing teachers, Lisa Strupa, Claire Munley, and Joe Barros, who will share with us the growth and offerings for visual arts over the past few years. In the second segment, our guests will showcase our students and their work, along with the positive impact that the creative process in the arts has on their growth as students and as a person. All right, we're going to roll the intro, and we will be right back with the UHS Visual Arts teachers. And welcome back. As promised, we have with us the three teachers from the Uxbridge High School Visual Arts Department. Folks, thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Now, when we think about the departments across the high school and across the entire district, this is the most rapidly growing department around. We have gone from, in the last 3 years, from one part-time teacher to a full-blown department with offerings from 2 to 3D media as well as digital. And now we have a state grant coming in that'll help you provide our kids with skills that they'll be able to go out into the world, be it college or work, so that they have the skills to meet the needs of a rapidly growing industry. It's very exciting what's going on around here. So again, glad to be here. Let's start with some introductions. Lisa Strupa. Lisa, how are you today?
Great, thank you.
You are the senior member of this wonderful cast.
I am.
You've been with us for 15 years.
Yep, finishing up my 15th year here in Uxbridge. My first 10 were spent at the middle school level.
Okay.
And then I moved up here as part-time. And from there, we got our other great teachers.
The two who are flanking
Yes,
you now.
yes.
Lisa, what are some of the classes that you teach?
Right now, I'm currently teaching ceramics and painting and personal expression and Art 1.
That's great.
Thank you.
And Claire Munley, welcome.
Hi.
Claire, you've been with us, this is your third year.
Yep, third going into my fourth year. I was briefly in Foxborough for a little bit, and I taught in New Bedford as well. Some of the classes that I teach, I absolutely adore teaching, are drawing and painting, graphic design, and digital photo.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And Joe Barros. Joe,
Yeah.
you've been here, this is your second year.
Second year, yeah.
And you're part of the visual arts department.
I am.
And that also includes this TV studio where we are right now.
Yeah, so my title is digital media teacher. So I teach digital photography, I teach graphic design, and I teach video production.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you're one of the key players in making this show happen.
Yeah.
Right now, we are being filmed and produced by your students. You do an excellent job of that.
Thank you.
Just
Thank
wanted
you.
to thank you
I appreciate
publicly
it.
again for that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So folks, we are, with each of you being here for varying amounts of time, how have you seen the growth of the program develop since you've been here? And Lisa, maybe we'll start with you because you've been here the longest.
Sure. When I started, we were offering 8 classes for the entire year to students, and now we're offering over 20. So it's
Really?
grown, yes, a ton.
I think that when I started, we had 8, and then I was 0.9, so that went to 19 sections. And then once Joe came in, we significantly increased the amount of classes that were available.
Okay. And when we were here with just 8, when you arrived, was that mostly drawing and painting? Was that ceramics, or was that digital as well?
Okay.
That was mostly digital classes, and a few more Art 1s were offered.
Okay. Nice. And Joe, when you arrived?
When I arrived, there was a video and photo course that was sort of combined. And then when I first arrived, we ended up splitting those. So I had one video 1, and I had one digital photo, and no graphic design. And then this year, we bumped those numbers up a little bit more. I have a couple more sections of video 1, a couple more sections of photo, and 1 graphic design each semester.
Nice. It's one of those things, if you build it, they will come.
Sure.
And the more success you have, the more kids that are signing up for your classes.
Yeah, and with the change in the schedule, which I think took place when I came in, the schedule
so,
change.
yes.
With the addition of that extra class in the flex block, it allowed for more class sections to be available.
Nice. So now when students are thinking about enrolling in one of your classes, and you talk about process versus product, for lack of a better term, what does that process mean? Like, what does the student have to understand about either one of those before they enroll?
I think when it comes to in any way that we start the projects, we're all very much about coming up with as many possibilities as we can. And so the process of doing the research and exploring what's already out there, what people have already done, and then the students take it and they do thumbnail sketches and they do more research, and then they can do prototyping if they need to. And that process where they can kind of whittle down what's going to be their final product and what's going to be the best version of that final product is really awesome. The process of where they can make the mistakes and learn from those mistakes is really where the magic happens.
Great.
I think it's, in all of my courses, I really, really want to suggest that students need to explore. That's one huge thing, is that you're never going to know exactly what you want to do if you do everything perfect the first time. So that failure and exploration of maybe new outlets and new creative media is so, so important. If you do something right the first time, there's really no way to learn. So we try to foster that creativity and that process over product as much as we possibly can.
And that's kind of counterintuitive sometimes to how schools work. You know, when we have the expectations, you know, to get an A, you need to have the product that looks like this. But this is more process-centered. Have you found kids that have struggled with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When everyone wants to create the best painting or the best ceramic bowl, but it's not always the case what it comes out like. It's what you learn in the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So for you folks, we talk a lot about technology. And when people my age traditionally think about art in school, we do not have technology as we think about it today. Can you tell us how you use technology and how that drives the instruction in your classroom?
So as a digital media teacher, I think we only always use technology. But I think it's the mixture of technology with traditional media and traditional ideals and ideas that are so important. Technology is going to solve problems for you, but it'll sure help. And I think that's where a lot of the philosophy of design thinking and growth mindset really plays a huge role in what we do here. And I hope I'm not speaking for only myself, but that idea of integrating that is so important.
Yeah.
So important.
It's definitely using the technology as a tool and not as the be-all, end-all of it. So something that I really am jealous of that I don't get to try out is the Cricut machine in Lisa's class, as much as I'd like to.
And I know everybody knows what the Cricut machine is,
Yeah.
but I don't. What is the Cricut machine?
The Cricut machine is this tool that it's a lot of people that do scrapbooking like to buy them. We use it a lot for vinyl decals and stenciling, and so a project we just finished up with my personal expression class is that they needed to design their own image, so they drew out an image. Then I edited it and stuck it through the Cricut machine, and they came out with a vinyl decal of it,
Nice.
which they then stuck on T-shirts and used bleach to spray over.
Okay.
So the image stayed the T-shirt color, and all around it got bleached out. They came out amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Custom t-shirts.
Yeah, so I was going to do this later because it's more of an actual product that we should talk about in the second segment, but Margot Lewis, I'm going to shout out to Margot Lewis. She, for the Evening of the Arts, which will be in the middle segment,
Yes.
had a booth, and she was charging people $1, and she would doodle anything that you wanted to on a piece of paper.
Yep.
And Barry Giles, our partner here at UCTV, wanted a cameraman. So she made a cameraman, right? So we took this in my graphic design course, actually vectorized this and made it into an actual design, and then we were able to use the Cricut and make the shirt.
I
that
see
I'm
it right
wearing.
there.
So it's a little bit more of process and products. So yeah.
And again, I know what vectorize means,
Sure.
but perhaps you could explain it to
Yeah,
our
absolutely.
audience.
Vectorizing is taking an image that is maybe from traditional art or maybe more fine arts and making it more digital. Letting the computer run its course and use algorithms to tell you where the lines are. In a sense, it's just making things look more clear on a screen.
That's great. And by the way, I had no idea what vectorizing was. I just,
It's a fancy term.
it's my show, you know?
But those kind of skills are really applicable. So we were able to take a traditional method or a drawing and then be able to turn it into something that was now, kids can make their own t-shirts, they can make their own decal stickers and things to put on their water bottles, things like that.
That's great. And the technology is part of the process. It's not part of just, we're going to design it and then make the product. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So again, 2 years, 3 years, 15 years. Let's fast forward 5 years. I just announced at school committee last night that we've received a grant coming from the state for $175,000, and that is going towards our digital media pathway here for career and college readiness. What's this department going to look like in 5 years? I mean, in 3 years, it's morphed completely.
I think with this opportunity, there's going to be not only opportunities to bring in more technology and opportunities for our students, but I don't know, I'd like to see an AP course and have our kids be able to apply the skills that they've acquired throughout this, the course of their time here. And then maybe like a National Art Honor Society would be awesome, but I know Joe's got big plans for that technology pathway.
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, it's so hard to even think a year ahead sometimes, but in 5 years, in a perfect world, I'd love to see kids maybe not in a classroom. I think a successful classroom is spreading them out and showing them the real world applications of what we're doing inside of the school. So my whole mantra is usually a successful classroom for me is when a classroom is empty and kids are exploring outside in the hallways and making news stories for a news show, or going out and designing and videographing the whole school, or just getting them out behind the walls of the classroom. Really just kind of making them explore a little bit more. So hopefully in 5 years things are a little more spread out and kids are out into the industry and in internships and capstones. That's my goal.
That's great. Lisa?
And I couldn't agree more. I want our students out more in Uxbridge. Like, I want our students' work hanging in banks and town buildings, and
I'd love to see that.
I would love our students teaching others. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Because the products, I mean, we talked a little bit about the process, and in the second segment we're going to talk about the products. I'm blown away every time I'm in one of your classes, or in the evening show that you had a few weeks ago. It was just tremendous. Just one last quick question before we break. We talk about our students leaving here and moving into industry, and with technology in particular, it changes. The fourth industrial revolution, we're knee deep in it, and it changes every 6 months. How do you folks keep on top of what's happening so you're preparing for our kids?
Joe and I are still we're both in our master's program at UMass Dartmouth right now, and so a lot of what we're kind of seeing with the undergrad, especially in the art education program, is that keeping up with the technology. It's reading the articles, it's making sure you're staying on top of things, utilizing social media, and just really taking it just beyond the classroom, and that 7 to 2 feeling. We actually spend a lot of time outside of school really working with students and keeping up with what's going on in the industry.
I think what
That's
that
great.
looks like, what it looks like here is probably like professional development for like a big chunk of our time. Learning about other things is going out and experiencing those other things and what other instructors and people are doing with those things. You can read about something, for hours, but once you see it happen and you experience it yourself, things kind of click a little bit. So I love going out to those PD days where we get to go to like the AET labs and see the new machines, the new glow forges, the 3D printers, and the new vinyl cutters and stuff, and see those things being used, because it makes a spark happen. It re-excites
Yeah.
you for the things that are coming up, and that's a big part of like the motivation of teaching to me.
Oh, that's great.
And bringing our students on those opportunities too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And being able to showcase them to them.
absolutely.
Okay, we are going to take a short break. These three aren't going anywhere. In the meantime, we have a brief video developed by our visual arts department. And Claire, you're going to set up this clip for us. Tell us what we're going to be seeing.
What you'll see in this is a short video of some of the Evening of the Arts, some of our students working in the classrooms, and an update on our website.
Sounds great. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hi everyone, and we're back. With us still is Claire Munley, Lisa Strupa, and Joe Barros. They are our Uxbridge High School visual arts teachers. In this segment, we're going to focus more on the students' work, and we're going to discuss creativity and the importance of that as it translates into other disciplines. So now, folks, creativity, we're going to talk about that first. And my understanding is that could be intrinsic or that could be extrinsic. For you folks, you are often the people that inspire your students for their level of creativity. Now, I know I've spoken to each one of you individually before the show, and I find out something that's really amazing. You may not know this. All three of you have the same external inspiration for your creativity. And of course, I'm talking about the famous American painter and art teacher and pioneer in combining traditional painting with digital media, and that, of course, is Bob Ross.
Oh my gosh.
So
It's the man. It's the man, the myth, the legend.
So before we move on with the show, I just want to know exactly what Bob Ross means to you and how he continuously inspires you.
Claire, take this one.
So I think what kind of sparked this Bob Ross movement, I guess, I think in some way, I started a Bob Ross Fridays. So my students usually would spend, an entire week working really, really hard, and then come Friday, some students would be like, well, I have nothing to do, I don't know what's going on. I would put up a Bob Ross video, and some students would doodle, some students would follow along, and it was just an opportunity for them to kind of relax and just enjoy a very peaceful painting experience.
Nice. And that caught like wildfire, obviously.
So I very rarely watched Bob Ross when I first started teaching here, and then when I started working with Claire and then Lisa in turn, Bob Ross Fridays became a thing in my classroom sometimes too, but it would be more of like a gift where it'd be like, if you guys get some stuff done, we can watch Bob Ross, and that turned into No, in all seriousness, students actually caught on and were a little bit less stressed on Fridays, which is super important for high school kids because they can be really high strung. And then also his ideals of like just there are no mistakes, only happy accidents is the greatest thing ever. I love that. And it really, really helps some students cope with the idea of nothing being perfect all the time. In high school, like the intrinsic motivation, if it's not there, you can find fault in a lot of stuff that you do.
Sure.
As an adult, you do the same thing, but high school feels a little bit more intense than that sometimes. And for a student to step back and say, it's cool, I don't have to worry about this, it's just a happy accident, is super important. It's super, super cool. I love that. So Bob Ross is amazing.
Lisa, you want to weigh in on Bob Ross?
Who does not like looking at something that's a blank canvas and watching someone put a few lines down, and then it's amazing?
Yeah, it's true.
Well, when I first came to Uxbridge, I noticed Bob Ross, and huge fan, obviously, and so just wanted to put that out there. Didn't know if you guys do, you had that in common.
We definitely do.
Okay. So we're still talking about creativity. So in one word, how would you describe creativity?
I know that when I think about creativity, I kind of parallel it with problem solving. So when you think about, you've got that blank canvas. Your problem is you have a blank canvas. How are you going to then take that and make it a Bob Ross painting? It's about finding the path, about getting to that final piece that I find really interesting. It's like, what can you do to make it unique to you, but also, solve the problem of that blank canvas? That's my
Love it.
perspective.
Lisa?
My idea for creativity is that that I want the students to be able to feel as though they really can do anything. So when you have a blank canvas in front of you, say they want to paint a portrait of their dog, but they don't think they can, then anything's possible. It's just how do we go about doing it? So the idea that really we can do anything, just let's figure out how.
So there are no limits.
Yes.
But sometimes that vastness can really get inside your head a little bit. I'll speak for myself only.
Yeah.
Joe, go ahead.
I think that my sort of idea kind of bounces off of what Lisa and Claire says. It's the idea of like exploration. getting out there and experiencing new things, because like I said before, you don't really know what some of those new things are until you try them. And if you don't try them, you'll never know. So sometimes like a blank canvas or a blank video screen or a blank Affinity Designer, which is the graphic design program we use here, a screen, if it's blank, is really daunting for a lot of kids. So when you just tell them, look, it's cool, just try things. Here's the techniques, here are the tools, now try things. Sometimes that spark really kind of ignites in a lot of students if they're not already intrinsically motivated. So the idea of exploration with creativity, that's way more than a sentence, but is awesome. It's why we do what we do.
And that must be great to see, I know as a former teacher, just to see kids, just the idea come. And you can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their body language, and that must be exciting.
It's part of why I think all of us became teachers, but like figuring out why I was like, or if I was going to become a teacher, figuring that moment out where I was helping a person and I saw that happen was the moment where I went, I think I want to do this. This is a really cool thing to experience. So yeah, I think we all have that in common.
Now, for you as our teachers and our instructors, how do you foster that? And you spoke to that a little bit in your definitions, but if you could just, how do you help kids get there?
I think independence is huge, especially for high school kids, but letting them be free and also letting them make mistakes. Hovering over someone, being a helicopter, teacher, and just saying, no, don't do that, do this, or no, you're not doing that quite right, try this or something, can really be hindrant to a lot of students. So just letting them kind of do their thing and take a step back and, wait for them to come and ask you for help sometimes, because they need to figure out how to do things on their own. Which also builds up things like soft skills and figuring out, how to problem solve and critically think for themselves and not rely on someone.
And resilience.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
And I agree with Joe. And also I feel that if you want students to be creative, you need to have the proper environment. So you need them to be able to feel like they can make mistakes or try new things. So they have to be comfortable in there. So having a classroom that feels safe and like, hey, I can try this out, then I think that's really important too.
Oh, I think that's great.
Yeah, definitely. The relationships, not only between like the teacher and the students, but student to student as well. We utilize things like critiques, and be it, peer to peer or teacher, we actually, Joe and I pop into each other's classes a lot, and I'll just walk by students' computer or whatever, and I'll give them a quick comment, and the next thing you know, like, they'll be able to talk about it with him a couple days later and be like, oh, I made that adjustment Miss Munley suggested and it looks awesome, or I didn't like it and I tried it this way. But it's about those relationships and building the trust and allowing them to make those mistakes.
And that echoes real life. I mean, that studio environment, that workshop environment, in most people's professions, they don't work in isolation. And sometimes in schools, we have them in isolation and we test them. And there is assessments, or there are assessments. Just balancing that process with the product. Perhaps you folks could speak to that a little bit too, because it is about independence and creativity, but at the same time, there are standards.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we utilize, I think it's 3, 4, and 5 of the school-wide learning expectations, which you can find on our website. But we also utilize the Studio Habits of Mind, which is, and we look obviously at the curriculum standards for the nation, but with the Studio Habits of Mind, it's thing like observe. Are they observing their subject, or are they exploring their possibilities? Are they stretching their understanding of what it is, or how does their piece fit within the art world? So we grade them on that, and we also have students self-assess. So they look at what they have a standard rubric, and they can say, okay, yes, I did this really well, or I can be really honest about myself that I didn't spend as much time doing this. And we have those conversations with them over those rubrics and say, hey, we didn't spend as much time planning it, but you got it done, but we could have made it even better if we did plan it. So for next time, this is what we'll do.
So the students self-assess, as well as it's not, they make this and then they got a B+ on it, and that's the end of it. So you're part of that process, they're part of that process.
And that happens throughout the entire project.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think assessment is always constant with art. I mean, I don't think there's ever a time where we're not observing the students and commenting, or just silently sitting back and saying, okay, what are they doing, or what are they trying to accomplish? I think there's never a time where we're just sitting down, just kind of watching idly. I think we're always taking those internal mental notes, and then later coming forward and having a big critique or review, but that process is always constant. in art.
So we talked a few minutes ago around the creativity in this process, be it a studio, workshop type. And I know in other disciplines, we have writer's workshop, we have reader's workshop, and our engineering and so forth, and making mistakes, trial and error and so forth. But how do you see what the students are doing with you? How does that translate into other disciplines?
I think personally I was really able to connect really well with the engineering department, and so I had the opportunity to be trained with the epilogue laser that we have in the wood shop. And so my students were actually able to work with some of Mr. Smutak's students and learn the program Corel Draw, which they then took drawings that they had done for their block printing assignment. They put them into the Corel Draw program. We were helped by those students, and they were actually able to use the laser, and they were able to make laser engraved blocks for their block printing.
Great.
So they got to not only partner with another class and be able to do that, but they were actually able to take those same skills and apply like those artistic creative thoughts to an engineering primarily tool. But it's those, the planning out, the going back, finding out where you went wrong, and making those mistakes and making those adjustments as you move forward that I think are really applicable.
Yeah, I was able to, this year I was able to cross-collaborate with Spanish and work on a global warming PSA with my Video 2 students.
Nice.
We were able to work on a script together with the Spanish department. We came up with an English one and a Spanish one, and then we were able to sit down and actually record a stop-motion style drawing video based on global warming, and it was in Spanish and English, and it was a PSA, which was a really cool experience because it was this awesome cross-promotion between Spanish and us, and we were able to showcase our talents together, which is something that we don't get to do a ton, but we're starting to, and I think it's awesome. I loved it. It was so much fun.
Oh, that's great.
And
Lisa,
I
any
find
thoughts?
that even basic art qualities then can transfer to lots of different classes. Like just learning how to draw lines correctly and angles can transfer to math class or geometry. Or when they need to do a certain project for, say, biology class, having that extra creativity push, thinking well, how can I make this even better? What can I do to make my poster shine?
And it's even those soft skills that you folks are talking
sure.
about as well,
Absolutely.
just in terms of being able to provide feedback to your peer. I mean, that's an acquired skill, and something adults don't come by naturally. So those are translatable as well. I'm looking at a couple of pieces here. What are we looking at?
Oh, these are some ceramic pieces. So what we have here is looking at this mug over here. So that looks like it was a slab-built mug and then glazed with a few different color glazes. This is all Cone 05 pottery, earthenware. Some is white clay, some is red clay. And the middle one, one of the middle ones, the mug with the face on it, that was a project that we called Smug Mugs. And the students needed to make at least a 5-inch tall mug. It needed to have a handle, and it had to have some type of face on it.
Nice.
That was a great project. The tallest one, that is another slab-built vase with cutouts. And in ceramics, we do for ceramics one, we start off with a few different lessons that involve just techniques, so slab built and coil built and pinch method. So they learn all those methods first, and then later on they can choose whatever method it will be applicable for what they want to make.
That's awesome. Oh, the good-looking pieces.
Thank you.
And for you folks had mentioned products that you have now. During the break, people had the opportunity to see some of those products, but if they wanted to explore further, how would they do that?
If any of the parents of any of our students have their Google Classroom set up, they can all see their student work posted on there. And then we also have a running slideshow on our website that highlights all of the student works that were posted for the Evening of the Arts.
Nice.
And so that actually was sliding through, I believe, before people sat down.
I believe
during,
yes.
Yeah, before the
Yeah.
concert.
As you mentioned, it would be nice to see your students' artwork hung in banks and so forth in local shops around, because it's just tremendous quality. We are out of time. thank you so much for your time
Thank you
and,
for having us.
sharing
Thank you.
with
Thank you.
me and sharing with everyone else your talents and the talents of our students here at Uxbridge High. And from all of us at UPS, we would like to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We would like to thank our friends here at UCTV, as well as Josh. He's our floor director, and Lily is our studio director. They're students here at Uxbridge High School. I'm Frank Tiano. Again, thank you for tuning in for our first season of Behind the Black and Orange. Have a great summer.